Hello. Welcome to the Skeins of Dreams Knitting Podcast. I'm Megha. I'm also known as Skeins of Dreams on Instagram and on Ravelry. And welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm back with a knitting update for all of you. I have been knitting quite a bit over the last few weeks, and I have quite a bit of knitting to share with you. So hope you had a lovely month so far. I can't believe January is coming to an end already. Today's the 26th, I think. I'm forgetting. Time is flying. And I have been knitting quite a bit. Over this past weekend, I've cast on a couple projects, and there's a lot going on in my head, and I feel like in the previous videos, I think I was talking about not being too inspired for 2025 knitting plans, but I think right now I feel extremely inspired, and I have a lot of plans for the upcoming year, and I'm trying to just figure out where my mojo is taking me. But anyway, all of that aside, and of course I'm going to talk about it while I record this episode, but I did want to mention that I know I promised in the last video that I would do my sweaters I wear the least, and I still have plans to make that video. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I was planning to do that video today instead of just a regular knitting update, but honestly I felt a little lazy. I didn't want to try on a lot of sweaters, and it's a whole thing, and then I knew the editing will be another thing where I have to combine all those videos, and I just felt like sitting and talking about things I've been making. So that video will definitely happen. It's just not, this weekend is not the right weekend for it. So that being said, I think we should get started. I am wearing my finished object. This is the Cragmore vest, and on cue, Oreo's here because this happens to be his spot. But anyway, this is the Cragmore vest. It's a design by Beth McDonald Stone, and I test knit this for her, and it released this past Friday, I think 24th was it? And this is a cabled vest. It has cable panels on the side and then a center cable. So it has these cables down the side, it has a center cable, and one of the versions has ribbing over here, but I chose not to do that version. So I am very, very, very pleased with how this one turned out. It has ribbing in the back. It's a K3P2 ribbing, and it looks really nice, and I love how the way it just, because it's ribbing, it takes the shape of your back pretty much. And I'm gonna put pictures and videos of me in the vest to show you a better angle, and I took some finished object pictures with a collared shirt, and it looks really nice with a linen collared shirt underneath it. Right now I'm just wearing it with a long sleeve t-shirt because I'm at home and I couldn't be bothered wearing my shirt. But anyway, so I test knit this for Beth McDonald Stone. The instructions are really nice, and the cable, while this looks like a lot, the cables are very simple, and Beth uses the ribbing in the back to shape and everything, so it makes for a very simple pattern on the whole, and even a new cable knitter can try this out. So you do the back until your underarm, and then you pick up stitches and do the front panels. You join them for the neck, and then when you get to the underarm, you join the front and the back. I think the only modification from my end is did make my armhole a little bigger. So that's, I guess, this is where my armpit is, and this is where the armhole, like the opening is. And I kind of did that on purpose. This yarn that I'm using is kind of pretty soft. It's a nice, and thank you for everyone who corrected me last time. It's an Italian yarn, and the company is called Lani Vandol. And the yarn is very nice. It's an alpaca wool blend, so it's quite soft. It has a fuzzy feel to it because of the alpaca. I don't think you can tell on the screen as much, but I didn't want it to felt too much, and if it was gonna be close to my underarm, I feel like it would have shown wear much more easily because it has some alpaca content. So I decided to make my armholes, make the armholes a bit longer, maybe by half an inch, not by much. Half an inch as compared to what was in the pattern already. And since it's going to be a vest, I'm always going to be wearing, since it is a vest, I'm always going to be wearing something underneath it. So it doesn't matter that the armhole is pretty big. But if I was to wear, currently the way it sits, if I was to wear it without something underneath, my bra would show, which obviously I'm not going to do. But like, just so you know, you can tighten up the armhole if you want to make it in like a summer yarn and want to wear it as a summer t-shirt. I think that would work too. You would just have to make sure that your armhole is the right length. I went off on a whole tangent about armholes. But yeah, other than that, I don't think I made any changes to this vest pattern, and I made it the length that I would normally make a vest, slightly shorter than my sweaters, because typically I feel like if the vest is too long, it becomes a little bit difficult to style. If it meets the trousers, where I wear my trousers exactly, it makes it much easier to style, I feel, and then I can get away with wearing it over a dress maybe. But I say that, but I don't wear a lot of dresses in the winters, so usually if I'm wearing my sweaters, I'm wearing like trousers underneath or some sort of like, you know, culottes or something like that. And I just try to make sure that the length of whatever sweater or vest I'm knitting is, it fits in what I'm going to wear it with. So I make my vests a little bit, like almost an inch shorter than what would be comfortable for a sweater. And it's just so that I can layer it over things, and then if like I'm wearing it over a shirt and the shirt is sticking out from under the vest, it looks nice. If it's too long, then it gets into the realm of being oddly, the length is too odd for me to style it properly. Anyway, I'm very happy with how this garment turned out. I love the color. It's like a neutralish, and I like neutral vests, though I have a bright green vest and I really want a hot pink vest as well. So I think one of the things I have been thinking for a while is to have more shoulder season sweaters, because I work indoors and it's a desk job. And if it's not like super frigid, which it kind of has been this winter, but if it's not frigid, then indoors I'm more comfortable with like long sleeve tees or shirts with like a sweater vest. And I've been liking that look for work and everything. So I'm very, very happy with how this worked up. And Beth gives you instructions for picking up stitches for the neckline so that they line up with all the cables. So it gives for a very neat finish, and it looks, everything is flowing together and all of that. So I'm very impressed with how simple the pattern is, and at the same time it has all the right features. She also gives you instructions for binding off the neckline so that the neck bind off is kind of tight, and so it doesn't stretch out too much. There is like no stretch to the thing, so it holds everything together up top here. And she suggests a different bind off for the bottom, though I just did like a regular in pattern bind off, which I usually do. but I followed her instructions for the bind off for the neck, and I'm super happy with it because it gave a very clean edge, and it just holds everything in place, and it's not like stretchy, so your neck is not going to stretch out. But yeah, that is my Cragmore vest. I highly recommend the pattern, even if you're like new to sweater knitting and everything. And one of the testers actually made this into a sweater by adding sleeves, which I really like the look of it, and I would like to do that at some point, like make the same pattern but like add sleeves to it so it can be an actual sweater. That'll be really cute. I have another idea in my head, and I think one tester did that as well, made it a split hem. This is not a split hem, but if I made this a tad bit bigger, as in more ease, and added split hem so that like a deep split or something, it would look really cute, I think. And there are a lot of ways you can modify and make different versions of the pattern, so overall extremely pleased with it. Moving on, I have another finished object that I completed and gifted it. It was a pair of socks. I used Patterns Croy yarn in two colors, a red and a flax. I think the color is called flax. It's like a brownie beige. And I made socks for a friend of mine, and I think I was knitting on those the last time I spoke to you, and I showed them on the video, and I'm just gonna put a picture of my finished pair of socks. I gifted it, the recipient loved it, and it's being worn quite a bit, so that was successful. And as I had mentioned in my last video, that this is going to be a year of sock knitting, and it's turning out to be a year of gift knitting, honestly. So I mean, the year has just begun, but that is the plan in my head. So I immediately cast on more socks, and I'm going to talk about that in the finished object, no, in the works in progress section. But I have another finished object, and this is, I cast this on Friday. Today is Sunday, and I've already finished it. But this is a tiny little flax sweater. So one of my co-workers, and he's a really nice, good friend of mine, his wife really recently had a baby, and I decided that, and this is their second child. They have an 18-month-old and now 1-month-old. And so this is for the 1-month-old girl. And I just used the Tin Can Knits flax pattern, and this yarn is fingering held double in this beautiful speckled superwash yarn, and I believe this yarn is from Jador Fibers, and I don't believe they are dyeing anymore. I think last year or maybe the year before that they quit the business, but I had bought this beautiful speckled yarn from them, and I decided to make, so my friend has an 18-month-old boy and now a 1-month-old girl, so I decided that I'd make them coordinating sweaters. So this is the size 1 of the flax pattern. I just finished it last night, so I did not like weave in some of the ends, and I didn't block it or anything. So I made this to be the first size, which is the 0 to 6 months, I think. And then I promptly cast on the coordinating sweater for the 18-month-old boy, and it's again the flax pattern, and this is the 3rd size, which is the, I want to say 2 to 4-year-old. So I'm making so that it's a little bigger than the boy is right now, so that I'm hoping that he gets a little bit of wear out of it. So the point is that I had this contrast color yarn. It was a mini from Leo and Roxy yarns, so I put that here in this one, and then I was left over with this because I don't think I have enough of this blue to like just knit the whole sweater in it. So that's why I ended up using some of this yarn to stripe on this sweater. So the idea is that they're kind of set, and I am super pleased with it. Like, I cast this on yesterday right after I finished this, and you can tell how much knitting is happening. This beautiful blue purple yarn is a yarn that I took or got from Mel from the Mel Makes Stuff podcast. She, when Salma, Mel, and I met for Knit City, Montreal, we did a yarn swap and we like lugged so much yarn. And I'm sure if you watched the podcast, any of our podcasts before, you would have seen us do that. And we had swapped yarns. And Mel used to die long time ago. I didn't know her then, but she had some of her hand-dyed yarn in like the swap pile, and I ended up getting this blue from her. And for a while, it's just sat in my stash and I didn't know what to do with it, and I feel like this has become the perfect way to use it. So I had 2 skeins of this, and it's kind of a heavy fingering, and I'm holding 2 skeins together for this flax, and I'm knitting this on US 6, which is I believe 4mm needles, and I am super pleased with how they're turning out. And I'm so thrilled to gift this to my friend, and I'm sure that they will be. And you know, I was thinking that this is for the guy, but like the colors are nice enough that like for the boy, but the colors are nice enough and everything that if it's like if this sweater holds up well, it can be a hand-me-down for the little girl. So I'm super thrilled with the set of flax sweaters that is currently happening. So I plan to do just stripe and do the same thing, basically stripe it and then do the ribbing in the blue and then the sleeves. And I'm hoping I have enough yarn. Otherwise, I'll just do cuffs in this in white if I'm left over with it. But yeah, I am super pleased with these. And the flax pattern is so nice for that reason, because I've made it a bunch of times already as gifts for people, especially kid sweaters, just because the size range is spectacular, right? Like it goes from 0 to 6 month old to like heavy, like large adult sizes. So really happy with that. And with that, we have transitioned into works in progress. So talking of socks again, promptly right after I finished the last pair of socks, I cast on another pair of socks in Patterns Croy, and this is for a friend again. I'm knitting for a men's 9 or 9.5, I believe, and I'm almost done with this, and I have started the toe decreases. So this is, so for a men's 9.5, 1 skein of Croy is not enough per sock for me. So that's why I added a contrast heel and toe. And this is the contrast color I'm using with this. It doesn't make for the most, I mean, it isn't what I would go for. I would have liked a gray, but I didn't have a gray. And since then I have purchased a couple of neutral colors so I can add them as heels and toes. But I think they're pretty cute anyway, like with this purplish heel. And I like when socks are kind of odd looking, because that mostly you won't find ready to wear socks like that. So that's the beauty of hand knit socks, is that they can be very weird looking, and socks are nice that they can be hidden, so you can use whatever colors you feel like and people can wear it, like something fun to add to your wardrobe that just is fun. So other than that, I also have another pair of socks on the go. This one I had finished a while ago, but I never cast on the second pair of socks, and I just had lost my sock mojo last year. And I then ended up casting on the second one recently, and I've finished I think I finished the leg. Or am I just a little bit left on the leg, and then I'm gonna do the heel and foot. But these are just vanilla ribbed socks, the recipe that I have been following for a while. And in my last video that I mentioned that I had written the recipe down, and if anyone was interested, they could just email me and I would send them the recipe, which I have done. A lot of you emailed me and I sent you the recipe, so I hope it's working out. And for those of you who've taken the recipe from me, if you find any errors in it, please let me know. So yeah, it's just a vanilla sock recipe. I typically do a 3x1 rib. So I do a 20 round cuff, which is 1x1 rib, and then I do the leg in 3x1 rib, and then I do a heel flap and gusset, then gusset decreases, and the top of the foot I do the 3x1 rib, but the bottom of the foot I do stockinette, because I don't like the idea of a rib on the bottom of the foot as well. I've never tried it, so I don't know how I'll feel about it, but I typically end up doing just stockinette at the bottom of the foot anyway, and then I do a square toe decrease. It has worked for me for a long time, and everyone I have gifted socks to, I do the same thing for them, and they make for pretty good socks. I have recently started doing a 2x2 rib all the way through, like a 2x2 rib on the leg, no cuff, so it just the whole leg is 2x2 rib, and I've done that as well. And the recipient who I gifted those socks to really likes the fit of them. And the Pattern's Croy sock has now been tested for snowboarding, and with just the socks that I knit them in the shoes, whatever they were wearing, and apparently they held up really well, and their feet were very warm, and they were very happy with the hand knit wool socks working for outdoor sports, which is quite impressive if you ask me. So yeah, that was the little projects, and now we'll move on to the big sweater stuff that I have been doing. I will quickly talk through this one. You've seen this before. This is Baljeet's raglan sweater, and I have been working away on it, but it hasn't finished yet. I'm still working on the body. This is a mulled sweater I'm knitting for Baljeet, and this is knitting for Olive fingering merino yarn, and I'm holding two colors together, and it's this navy blue, and this is called Blue Veil, I believe. And I just had, I don't know, I felt like making a marl sweater, and the marling has done like weird things over here, but I think overall it'll be fine once I block it and everything. But I've been enjoying the marled look, though I would have preferred if like this didn't happen and it was a uniform marl throughout, but not up to me when I'm holding two colors together. I think some of the marled yarns are nice that way because the marl, I believe, will be uniform in that, but I think it's more pronounced on the screen than you can tell in real life. I kind of lost my mojo on this, mostly because I'm in a very cable knitting space, but because I have done so much of it already, I'm just trying to get myself through it. I'm just telling myself, I'm putting stitch markers and trying to count rows and telling myself, okay, I can knit like 5 rows in one sitting or something like that on the body, and eventually the body will get done. And I feel like I've lately been in a very like, I reached body island. Like it feels like it takes forever to get through the body of a sweater, and then that bugs me. And in fact, I prefer knitting sleeves because they get done so much faster. So I've been noticing this over the last few months, that I'm not always motivated to knit on the body of sweaters, but I'm just trying to get through it. And because I don't want another project to be abandoned, and this is just a basic raglan sweater. The pattern is Bibliophile by Alicia Plummer, and I just wanted to have some numbers available to me. Like I could figure out my own numbers for Baljeet, but the thing is, to be able to knit my own numbers for a raglan, I usually try out the raglan quite a few times when I'm knitting for myself, and now I have my numbers down. But for Baljeet, like if I have to have him try out the thing multiple times, he's not always in the mood to do that. Or if I'm knitting, like I take it with me when I'm traveling somewhere, and he's not there around me and I have to make decisions like, is it time to split for the sleeves, is it time to do this and that? And so I ended up using a pattern, and then at crucial stages, like when I split for sleeves, I did make him try it out. But now I'm just gonna finish the body, and that's when he's gonna try it out next. And I have the length of his body and length of his sleeves written out because I've been knitting him sweaters, and so that helps. Okay, and now I have the cable knitting that I have been doing. So actually, the last video, I was supposed to show this as one of my whips because I had cast this on the 1st of January with Casey from the Young Folk Knits podcast. We had decided to do this mini knit along together, and we had planned for a different pattern, but then we decided the yarn that we both want to use, and then I was not sure that I would get the gauge for the original pattern that we had decided. So we looked for a lot of different cable patterns and then decided that we would knit the Dagmar Jacket by Petite Knit. And I have been obsessed with this. This has been such a fun knit. This yarn is Dererum Natura Gilead, which is a worsted Aran weight yarn. I'm knitting this on US 7, which is 4.5 millimeter needles, and that's the back of it. And then I've started the front panels as well. The left front panel is the one I'm currently working on. So there's honeycomb, there's this argyle thing, and then there's moss stitch. And the right front pattern right front panel I've already finished. So I'm at the point where once I finish the left front, I have to join the fronts and the backs by doing the underarm stuff, and then we'll be knitting on the body. And I am so pleased with the cables, and then also really obsessed with them. It is so much fun to tick off, like, you know, check or like, what do you call it, have a checkbox against a row, and then you just tick every time you finish a row, and it just feels like progress is being made, which I think is lacking in the stockinette projects, and which is why it's so much nicer to be able to knit on things that you're following a chart and you're just like checking off as you finish it. And I'm so happy with how this is looking. I think this might be the year of cables for me. Texture is calling me. So I was thinking about this a little bit. Like, I think I like solid color garments. Color work is very pretty and everything, but I'm not always in the mood, and my hands hurt with color work because I do two-handed color work, and I've still not gotten into the rhythm of doing single-handed color work with two colors. And I feel like color work takes a lot of mental space for me because I have to manage all the strands and everything. But cables, it feels like, because it's like one solid color and it's texture and you're checking off boxes, it just feels a bit easier to knit on. It's slower for sure because you're doing so much cable, but I pretty much cable without a cable needle now, and I have not come across like 5/6 or something ridiculous. It's usually like 2/2 or 3/3 cables, which I can still do with my regular needles, and I don't need, I do the pinch method, like, and I have fallen into a rhythm with them. This pattern is, I would say, okay-ish written. There are a few things one has to keep in mind when following the chart, is that at some point, for example, I'll just give you an example of where I felt like the pattern, and I don't think this is like anything against Petite Knit, but I think some of the Scandi patterns are written a lot more shorthand than some of the more recent indie patterns are. And I feel like that part of the world is used to that kind of writing, and people who are knitting are used to patterns being like concisely written. But then if we have been knitting a lot of the indie patterns, which are like very hand holding and a lot of pages and explaining every single step, and you don't have to think for yourself, when you switch back and forth, you have to remember that. So for example, in the Dagmar Jacket, in the back chart, at one point the increases are not shown, and you have to read the instructions to realize that even though the increases are not shown on the chart, you still have to do them until you hit the number of increases for your size. And I think little things like that, right? Like, and it made sense to me because I was like, these increases are not enough for my size. So what's going on? And then I went back and read the instructions, and it was like, oh yeah, keep doing the increases until you hit these many number for your size, and they're not shown on the chart, and nowhere on the chart it says go back and read the instruction. Things like little things like that would be on an indie pattern. But anyway, that aside, I think I figured it out well in time that I didn't have to rip or do anything weird about it. But I was like, oh yeah, someone new-ish, though I don't know if anyone new-ish is going to do like a massive cable sweater, but otherwise I like the instructions. Like little things like that, you have to keep reading the pattern for it. But with cabled patterns, I end up printing out the pattern so that I have the chart in front of me, and especially like so many cables, and that helps to just, you can read back and forth, and it's not on my phone that I have to constantly open my phone for. Anyway, so the Dagmar Jacket is happening. This blue is kind of a different color for me, and even now I would say that if I had the option, I would not have knit in this blue. But a few years ago I bought this color being super excited about the color, but right now I feel more excited about the pattern than the color, and I am motivated to use my stash, so I'm not buying a new color, and I didn't want to go through the hassle of destashing it. It's a nice color, it's just not my first choice I guess right now. I mean, I bought it for myself, so it was my first choice at some point. This color is called Clematite, and it's a really bright blue, and I'm thinking because it's a jacket, and if I wear this over like black jeans or even like blue denim, it would look really nice, and I think I can pull it off. Currently I'm more thrilled with the pattern and the cables than the color, and I'm just like, it's a bright color, I like bright colors, so it'll work. And briefly I had actually thought of using this color for Baljeet instead, like, it's a blue, he's a guy, he can wear blue, but I don't know, I didn't see it on him as much. I felt like maybe it's a little better on me, so that's what I ended up using, in the spirit of using up your stash. And I did like it. I mean, I like the color, but it's not my first choice. Like if I had to buy some color of Gilead, I would pick like a red, or not a red, maybe a pink or something like that. But I feel like I go through phases where I'm like into one color and then not into that color. But if you look at all the current projects that I'm knitting on, everything is a little blue, right? Like, so I feel like maybe I am in this phase. Anyway, I said a lot of things and none of them made sense. So that was the Dagmar Jacket by Petite Knit. Which one is it? Let's see. Can you see? Oh, it's mango. Okay. They love sleeping under quilts, so they love when there is like a bed sheet. So this is the level of basically they're spoiled. So this is the level of pampering that happens. The cats love quilts. They need a bed sheet on top of the couch. They want to sit on that bed sheet, and then they need a quilt on top of them. In any other order, this does not work. And if all the bedding is for wash, like it is on Sundays, they get really irritated that there is no bedding available, and they drive me crazy about it until I get them the freshly laundered bedding and set it up the way they want it, and then they leave us alone and go to sleep. They're spoiled. So while I was knitting the Dagmar Jacket, I decided that cables are amazing and I need more cables in my life. And I wasn't really thinking that I would get done with that much of the Dagmar Jacket knitting. and I thought maybe I need a simpler cabled garment pattern. I thought simple, but then I swatched for the Haley slipover, and I don't know if you can see this really well. I didn't meet gauge because this is a sport weight yarn, and the Haley slipover asks for a worsted weight yarn. So I didn't meet gauge, but I got gauge of cabled knitting on this yarn, and this is Blackberry Ridge Woolen Mill sport weight woolen spun yarn essentially, and it's in this beautiful purple lavenderish color. So I found out my gauge, and I often end up doing this as swatching with the yarn on needles that I think will work, and then figuring out what the gauge is and then deciding what the pattern needs to be. So I did use the Haley slipover gauge swatch as a reference, but then I cast on Sari Nordland's pattern, which is the Ballard Pullover, and this is the back. I'm pretty much done with the back pretty soon, and I'm in the middle of a row, so I don't know what to tell you. But this is the Ballard Pullover. This is the back panel of it, and these cables I think look really nice in the lavender or the purple or whatever. And the cables are simpler than the swatch, so they're more visible. I feel like this yarn was not the best yarn for busy cables, and I like the simpler cables on this yarn a lot. And it's easy. This is an easy pattern. You just do the cable every 10 rounds or so, and you have this panel set up, so it's almost like knitting stockinette, but just once in a while you're doing a cable stitch, and that adds so much more interest to the whole thing. So I'm so pleased with how this is working up. I'm at the point where I have to pick up, so you basically cast on for the back over here for the back neck. You do increases while you're setting up the cable charts, and then at some point you stop doing increases because your shoulder has been shaped, and from here now I will pick up stitches for the front panel. So I think I have enough yarn for this sweater. I may not have as much yarn as recommended. So what I'm thinking is, when I do the sleeve, instead of having, so in the sleeve, Sari makes you repeat this paneling with the cable all over around the sleeve, but it's a sleeve, so I might just do the cable on top of the sleeve so it's visible on top, but the rest of it I might just do like this, almost like a huge flat rib portion, so that I decrease how many cables are in the circumference, and that might help me use less yarn than recommended. You know, you buy a sweater quantity of yarn thinking it's going to be for one project, and then you don't want that project anymore, and then you're trying to make those 1450 yards fit in a project that requires 1550 yards, you know, like ridiculous things like that. So that's the rabbit hole I went down on with this purple yarn, and that's that. I picked the Ballard Pullover and I'm very happy about it. Yeah, I like this color. This is a nice color, I feel. So I think those were all my works in progress. I have a lot of things happening in my head, like knitting wise. Like I am planning new projects, I want to do different videos, and there's just so much happening that at one point I feel overwhelmed and I do nothing. But at least I've just been knitting away on all my projects. Right now, like yesterday and today, Saturday, Sunday, I only knit on the flax sweaters because I kind of want to get the gifts done. And then I have another friend who has a 6-month-old baby, and I kind of want to make him Valentine's Day sweater. So that is currently the direction I'm headed towards. And for the first time in a lot of months, I don't have any deadlines because I am not signed up for any test knits. And it feels like this newfound freedom, like I can do whatever with my time, and that feels amazing. So I think I'm just letting my mojo take me where it wants to go. But I will mention some patterns that I have been thinking about, and I've started a bundle on Ravelry which is called 2025 plans, and I'm just adding whatever currently I like into that bundle. And I think this happens every year, like my mojo changes or people come out with beautiful new patterns and I want to try all of them, and then I start making a list, and every year the list changes a little bit, but it's okay. I mean, planning is fun, so why not, right? Like, and it's free to do. So I'm looking at all the yarn that I have in stash, and then looking at all the cabled cabled patterns and everything. So for example, there is this it's a pullover or a vest called the Nava, and I'm going to put it on the screen here with the name of the designer because the designer's name is escaping my brain right now. And I think this is like really beautiful, and it's so unique, and I kind of want to make this. I haven't decided what yarn and whether I want the vest or if I want the pullover, but I think this is one of the things that is calling me right now. And then there is the Haley slipover, which I kind of swatched for, but it didn't work out. But I think I know what yarn and stash I can use for the Haley slipover. And this is by Iris H, I believe. And I really like the pattern since it was released. I have been really into the pattern, and very kindly the pattern was gifted to me by Ruth from Ruth Loves to Knit podcast, because I had talked about the vest, and so I kind of want to make the pattern also for that reason, because it was a gifted pattern to me. So that feels like something I'd want to do this year. Another pattern that I'm really interested in is the Moon Mint sweater by Andrea Mowry. It was, I think, her most recent release, and Casey made it in Sonder Luxe Sport in such moody and beautiful colors, I think a green and a gold, and I love how Casey's version turned out. I have Sonder Luxe Sport in 2 colors in exactly the right quantities, and I think I need to make it happen. I have the colors called French Press, which is this deep brownish red, and the color is literally called which is like a very light lavender grayish color, and I think those 2 colors will, and I bought them together to do color work, but I think they look good as the Moon Mint pullover. Then I think Moon Mint doesn't qualify in the cable craze because it is mosaic knitting, but I had made a mosaic pattern last year, which was my hand spun sweater of last year, and I had really enjoyed knitting mosaics, so I think I can make that. I can make an exception for that. Back to cables, I'm really feeling like the book club cardigan, which is a design by Sari Nordland again, and then I also love her Rivendell cardigan, and it looks really cool. So I'm trying to think which one I like more. And then another pattern that I'm thinking about is the newly released, and this is again not a cable pattern. This is not a cabled pattern, but it's the Midland cardigan by Laura Penrose, and I really like the construction. And I had been watching Laura's videos when she was like first knitting it, and then she had to make some changes, and then she'd kind of shown the journey that she was on with the designing of that cardigan, and then now I've seen the tester pictures and it looks beautiful, so I kind of would like to make that. The possibilities are endless. Another pattern that I have been thinking about lately is called the Strasselli, and it is a design by Anna Johanna. I think it was released more recently. It has 2 beautiful lace panels going down the front, and it's a pullover pattern, I think worsted weight yarn, and I really like the look of it, and I would like to knit that. For Biljit, I want to knit Petite Knits Moby sweater. I'll put a picture of it, of course, on the screen. It's a very classic cabled sweater, and I think Biljit will really like that. I have some more Blackberry Ridge woolen mill yarn in their natural sheep's brown, which I think will be perfect for a nice warm cabled sweater for him. So right after I finish this raglan, and I hope I finish this raglan because I feel like abandoning it and starting the cable sweater right now, and I'm trying to resist that. But that is the next sweater for Biljit that I have planned. So I have been basically obsessed with cables lately, and I haven't been doing any other crafting as much. I think I overdid quilting the last couple months, so right now I'm on a break from quilting. I do want to sew myself a pair of trousers and like a pair of classic black trousers to wear to work, because I feel like I'm missing a good classic pair of pants. The thing is, most of the ready-to-wear pants lately I feel are ankle length, or they are kind of too short for my taste, and I don't like socks showing when I'm getting ready. I mean, when I'm dressing business casual for work, and most of the time I have very colorful socks, and those are all my woolen socks. So I kind of want to make a pair of pants that has the right length for me, because I'm tall, but I'm taller than average, so the regular ready-to-wear clothes are a bit short on me, but I'm not as tall to fall under the tall category, because those then start becoming longer in the crotch and doesn't fit me well. So I'm in this odd space where lengthwise I struggle with a lot of trousers in the ready-to-wear style, and I don't know why everything is cropped lately. I don't enjoy everything cropped. So I want to make myself a pair of Protea pants. This is a design by Paradise Patterns, I believe, and I have the fabric washed and ready to cut, and I have the pattern printed and cut as well. I just have to make it happen. I've been trying to read up a little bit about full seat adjustments to make sure to see if the rise on these patterns, because it's a new pattern that I'll be trying. I want to check if the rise works for me or if I have to lengthen it and everything. So it's taking me a bit of mental space to figure all of that out. And yeah, so those are the plans I have. Of course, I have a lot of knitting mojo more than anything else, so that's what I have been doing. And except for the last couple days when I suddenly went on a flax sweater diversion, I had been into a cable space for a while. But I think that's everything I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for checking out my video. Thank you so much for all your messages and comments on my last video. I am so happy that you liked my top 10 sweater video. I will definitely make a least worn sweater video as well. I'm just trying to prepare mentally for it. And thank you so much for sticking with me until the end. Hope you're having a wonderful time making whatever is calling you these days and indulging in whatever craft you're indulging in. And thank you so much for watching, and I hope you stay safe and take care, and I will see you next time. Bye.